going to be Georgia Roberts. Oh, she's gone for goal. Oh, that's amazing. She was virtually inside the centre circle, and Georgia Roberts floats a free kick over the head of Shea Yanez.
Hello and welcome back to the Inside the Women's Game podcast, a weekly episodic podcast sharing stories from the world of women's football. Now 5 episodes in. On episode 5, we're joined by London Bees' very own Georgia Robert. But before we bring Georgia in, I must say that this week's show is proudly brought to you by Pro Talent Sports. Elite player representation, contracts, transfers and professional profiling. Your success is our goal is the motto, and Jackie has vast experience in the football world, and do check them out at protalentsports.net. Now let's bring Georgia in, shall we? Good evening, Georgia. I hope you're keeping well.
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, Tom. How are you?
Yeah, it's great to speak to you today. Thanks for fitting us in with your busy schedule. I know you've got a very busy life down there. Just how are things with you away from the pitch?
Yeah, all good. Yeah, can't complain too much. I work in a school, so still working there at the minute, and then obviously really lucky to still be playing football, so not affected, well, obviously affected by lockdown, but still a bit of normality in my life, so it's pretty good.
Off the field, you are, of course, obviously said they're a teaching assistant. Firstly, just how did you get into teaching, and just how difficult is it to balance teaching with football?
Yeah, so not been in the job too long. I started in October. One of the girls that I was really good friends with when I was at Lewis, she's actually a PE teacher at the school. And we played them in pre-season, and I was just sort of catching up with her after the game. We were just chatting. And then sort of a couple of weeks later, she messaged me saying that there was an opening at the school, and asked if I was up for it or if I fancy it. Thought it was a little bit of me, so applied for it, got the job, and yeah, it's been good. It fits in quite well with football because obviously as a teaching assistant, I'm not having to plan lessons or mark like the kids' work, which is an absolute dream. So obviously if I have to shoot off straight after school to get to training or whatever, then I can usually, yeah. It's just, I think, I'd say the only thing is just like getting in late from football and then having to get up again at the next morning. It's not the best, but it is what it is at the minute.
So now back to the football side of things, just how would you assess the season so far with London Bees? The club comes across as a great place to be, a fantastic group, and plenty of opportunity there for development in the coming years.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, oh, my cat's just got on. It's Juna.
Join us, why not?
She likes to join in. So yeah, the season so far, I'd say it's been challenging. I think because we had quite a good season last year. I think we thought like we'd come straight back in and just crack on sort of where we left off. But we'd lost a couple of players, got a couple of new players, and I think just sort of trying to find that fit and like what worked right for the team took us a bit longer than it did last year. So I think we obviously had a few not great results to sort of kick off our season, which obviously sort of affects momentum and whatnot. But recently we've been playing a lot better, so hopefully we can just sort of keep with the form and keep going strong and finish strongly at the end.
Well, these things do take time, don't they, George? It's not
Yeah,
always a quick, easy transition. The team needs to get used to each other, and it's like you say in 2021. I know you've not had the results that you maybe wanted there, but from a defensive approach, there's a few clean sheets in there and some performances that probably deserve better.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. I think at the start of the season we were sort of hemorrhaging goals, and it was like a real issue. So we really sort of cracked down and worked on stopping conceding goals, because you're not going to get anywhere if you keep conceding goals. But yeah, I think we've defensively been pretty sound in the past few games. We started playing really, really well at home, and then I think in our last game at Durham, which is obviously away, we were able to sort of transfer our home performances all the way up to Durham, which was decent for us.
It's just been a lack of goals, hasn't it? That's just been,
Yeah,
especially this
yeah,
year. I know that London City were in a similar position where they had, I think it was 3 goalless draws on the trot, and it just
yeah,
takes that one game where you score a few goals to get that confidence back
yeah,
and get that momentum going
yeah.
again. It's just a matter of time before it clicks, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like once you start scoring goals, they just come naturally. But I think it's because it's like we struggle to get get goals in the beginning, and then it's like it's in everyone's head that we're not scoring goals. So then it's all we think about, and then it's like we're still not scoring goals, and it just gets a bit mad. But it's coming. It's coming. I can feel
It's
it.
not been an easy start to 2021, but despite the lack of results, those performances have included plenty of positives to take forward obviously for you, from a defensive perspective, you must be really pleased with the resilience of the group.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, obviously we've had some tough games and tough results. So to be able to sort of I don't think we've completely turned the season around, but I think we're currently turning it around. We're getting better results, we're getting better performances. So I think it shows a lot about the girls and the team to sort of find that within ourselves, to like recognize that we've not had the best start, but then be able to go, you know what, it doesn't matter. Like each game is a new game, so just sort of go with the new game and start, and just keep trying your best and keep playing as well as you can, and just getting the results where you can.
I feel that after every week passes, though, you're learning more and more as a group about one another, and the position you're in isn't a dreadful position. It's a position that gives you plenty of opportunities for growth, and a couple of wins there would move you right up the table.
Yeah, 100%. I think sort of looking at the table, it's a bit like, oh, we're down at the bottom, but if we get one win, we shoot straight up. So I think it's not we're not in a panicky position. Obviously, we don't want to be at the bottom of the table, but if we get a win or a couple more draws or whatever we can get, pick up the points where we can get them, I think it will really bump us up the table. So yeah, I don't think we're panicking yet.
There are a couple of new additions over the last couple of weeks or so, with the likes of Mia Cruikshank, Emily Donovan joining the group. Just how are the girls feeling ahead of the second half of the campaign?
Yeah, I think the sort of vibe in the camp is pretty good. Like as you said, we've added a few new faces, which is always good. Just sort of like kicks a bit of new life into the team. But yeah, I think everyone's looking forward to the next game. Obviously, our last game was Durham, which was a good performance for us. So yeah, we're just looking forward to getting back out there on Sunday and playing as well as we can.
Yeah, it's another tough test ahead this weekend as you and the girls make the trip to face a very much informed Sheffield United. From a defensive approach, I imagine the main task will be trying to stop Katie Wilkinson, obviously a former London Beach player. She's been in some unbelievable form the last couple of seasons, not just this season. I think it's 29 and 28, and she's had 14 and 14 this season. So is it a case of just trying to stop their main player?
Yeah, I mean, I think sort of the long and short of it is stop Wilco scoring. In ridiculous form, like obviously scores when she wants, it would seem, but obviously Sheffield are a good team as a whole. I would say, like they've got some other good players in like Pennock and various others, but your team sort of is only as good as your best striker, and she's their best striker. So if we can try and keep her at bay, then I think it gives us a good shot in it.
It's all about confidence. I mean, every team will tell you that you're going to beat the team that you play, and that's just what confidence breeds. And I know that as we said there, the goals have not been coming. But if the goals come in this next game, against a very good side, then that'll give you that added confidence boost going into the rest of
Yeah.
the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just sort of, I think in football, it's all to do with like a little bit of luck, bit of confidence, and a bit of momentum. If you've got those, then you can beat anyone and any day. And if it's going against you, then you start to question it. Your confidence drops a little bit. You lose a bit of momentum. But as soon as you get that first win, it's like weights off your shoulders. You start being like, actually, you know what? We can do this.
So, Georgia, on a personal note, let's hear more about your story. Obviously, growing up as a proud Yorkshire lass, what point did you fall in love with football? Is it in the family or anything like that?
I wouldn't say it's in the family. Like, I'm not from like a sort of football mad family or anything like that. Like my mum and dad definitely like football and enjoy it and support it, but wasn't. I don't think it was really in the family. Like my brother played rugby, so I played rugby as well to begin with. I think like my earliest memories of football was probably just like at school. Like just used to always play at break, always at lunch. Like we'd be sorting the teams in class so that as soon as we got outside, we could just get going. And then like after school, be at the park down the road, just like playing, always playing. And then I think like one of my friends' mum was like, you should come and train or play for the team that he plays for. And I was like, yeah, go on then. So I started playing for the local boys team and then just sort of never looked back, I guess.
So from the age of 12, you spent 4 years at the North Yorkshire Centre of Excellence at that age. Just how did that feel? I imagine that you learned a great deal in that time and really developed as a player during that spell.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think when I went to trial, I think the first trial for North Yorkshire was when it was first sort of set up. So it was myself and I think 4 or 5 other girls from my village that went and trialled. I'm pretty sure we all got in. So we were like, felt like big dogs. It was good because we were all able to lift share because they trained at York College, which was like an hour away from where we were.
Right.
But yeah, it was definitely a good experience being in like sort of a like more proper like football environment as opposed to just sort of your village team. And yeah, I think there was a lot of like sort of when I was in the under-14s, there was a lot of inclusion with the under-16s. So I think like training up and playing up the under-16s was like beneficial just to play with like older girls. It always pushes you to be a bit better, doesn't it? When you're younger, you have to sort of up your game. But yeah, there were some great coaches, some questionable coaches, but I mean, you learn from them all regardless of what they tell you. So I think, yeah, there was definitely a good experience.
After those 4 great years, you joined a massive club in Leeds United in a 12-month spell. I can imagine that must have been a memorable experience for you.
Yeah, that was big. I think at the time, definitely at the time, like Leeds were huge in the women's game. Like I think if you like look at some of the players that have come from Leeds, there's some like big names. I think, at the time, I think it was Leeds and Sunderland who were like sort of the teams to be at. So yeah, absolutely. Getting into Leeds was a big deal for me.
Obviously, starting off in the reserves at Ellen Road, and then with some great performances, you managed to fight your way into the first team towards the end of the season. You must be really proud with the way you've worked so hard to tie down a first team place there at such a big club at such a young age. That ability to up your level to fight for that first team place.
Yeah, 100%. I think like football's a funny old game. I think like I've been at clubs where it's a lot of if your face fits and who you know and where you've come from always helps you. But I feel like I never really had that, just from coming from a village where no one knows who you are, or then you go to North Yorkshire and no one knew who you were, and then I went to Leeds and no one still knew who I was. So it was like to actually be able to break through and actually be recognised from our efforts and sort of be acknowledged as a decent-ish player. It was nice.
It must give you confidence as well, looking back on that, knowing that you managed to, obviously, like you said there, nobody knew you, and to fight your way into a first team place at such a massive club, that can only be a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, as I said, at the time, Leeds, I think it was called the Premier League. It was before like the WSL2 was formed. Yeah. So it was the second league in England. So to be even in the first team was, a massive achievement and something I'm really proud of.
As we mentioned earlier, education is something that's very important to you. In 2013, you made the decision to leave your friends and family behind to move to the US for university, spending 5 years in Florida and South Carolina. That must have been a life-changing experience, especially in Florida. Beautiful weather. It certainly
Yeah.
beats Yorkshire, eh?
Well, I don't know if it beats Yorkshire, but yeah, it was unbelievable, to be honest. I think, like, looking back on my time there, it was like 100% like the best decision I think I've ever really made. I would have enjoyed uni in England 100%, but going to America and just having the experiences that I had out there, like, I think the amount of like growth as a person and a player that I had like crammed into those 5 years is something that I wouldn't have got anywhere else. And yeah, I would, like, without a doubt, recommend going to America for any like young player who's out there.
Obviously, I've scrolled through your Instagram recently. I know when you were in America there, you've got so many memories, so many great places you've been to. Just talk us through your time in America from that standpoint.
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't really know where to begin, to be honest. So, yeah, I went out in 2013 to Boca Raton, which is in South Florida. It was nice when I first went out because there was another English girl who was a junior. So she was in her third year when I was in my first year. And there was a Swedish girl. So I think having the English connection, I was like straight in there with the best mate. And then obviously Swedish, we had the like European. So it was like we were just the foreigners. So immediately, like, and you're obviously straight into the team. So you've got like 20 automatic friends who you just like, you always you eat with them, you train with them every day, you travel with them to games. And then I was living with 2 other girls on the team. So it was just like, it's a bit corny when they say that you get like a family, but you, in a sense, you do, because especially the girls that you start out with, you end up being with them for 4+ years, depending how long you're there for. And yeah, I mean, it was incredible, to be honest. Like, I think my first year for spring break, we went to, we didn't really have any plans. So we were like, oh, just go to Miami for a week. And it was like, the fact that we can so casually decide to go to Miami for is like ridiculous. And then like we would go home when it was like Thanksgiving break, we'd go home with some of the girls, and just like it just felt like a holiday. It felt like a holiday for 5 years where I was studying a little bit and playing football a lot. So yeah,
not too bad, eh?
Yeah, not bad at all.
So during your time in the US, you played for 3 semi-professional clubs in Iowa, California, and South Carolina. Just how different was it playing over there to your time at Leeds, for example? It must feel a lot different playing over there. The game is different, isn't it, from over here to over there? It's a bit more technical, I'd say.
Yeah, it's more technical here. Over there, it's very sort of like, it's just fast. Like, they're really focused on sort of like being the fittest player you can be and like outrunning the opponent and all of that. But yeah, I would say like my experiences there were like so different to Leeds. So the way like the semi-professional teams work, they're like summer leagues. So you play like in between your sort of years at college. So the first team I played for was Des Moines in Iowa. So I got set up with like a host family, who were really lovely and made me feel like so welcome. What did I do? I flew up to Iowa. Then the coach picked me up from the airport, and then I got driven out to like out in the sort of sticks in Iowa. And then we trained every day, which was great. So I had to get a lift with one of the girls. I can't remember what time in the morning we trained. It was either 7 or 8, which was, it was like a really sort of professional experience in the sense that like we were training every single day, and then playing at the weekends. They'd provide food afterwards. And obviously the accommodation was taken care of. And that was, I think that was probably one of the best teams I've played in from a sort of like team chemistry point of view. Like, I don't know if it was a result of training so much, or I think one of the biggest things is like there wasn't any like big timers in the team. So like everyone was very like just there for the team and wanted to play as a team. And it was so apparent in that like our performances, I think we like, I don't think anyone expected us to be as good as we were that year, but we were, I I think we sort of outperformed ourselves. And then the year after, I did something different challenge. So I ended up going to Santa Clarita Blue Heat in California, which again, another beautiful place. Weather's incredible, tanned all year round. And that was, again, that was different even to Des Moines, even though it was still America. But that was a very different experience in the sense that I think we only trained like 2 or 3 times a week, but there was some like big players from big schools there. Like there was quite a few players from like UCLA, FSU. There was a woman who'd been in like the Canadian national team and like gone to the World Cup with them. So it was like there was a lot of sort of big players there. So to like train with them and be around them and play with them which was a lot of fun. And then the league we were in was it's called the UWS, and I'm not sure how many teams were in it, but they were all like really spread out. So like we were in California, there was another team in California, and then there was a team in Canada, there was a team in Texas,
Wow.
there was a Utah. So we had to we flew to the games, and it was ridiculous. Like that's ridiculous to me. Like we had like all this Nike gear. We were flying to games. We'd stay in a hotel. We'd play the game. Then we'd go out after the game, and it was just like it was an unreal experience. A lot of fun.
It sounds like you've been in international football when you're describing it like that, doesn't it? It seems like you're actually playing for a country and travelling everywhere and jetting off to every destination possible.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. I don't know where they got the money to do that, and not sure I want to know, but yeah, felt like a big dog.
So whilst in the US, it was a very testing time for you, wasn't it, Georgia? Obviously, getting used to being away from your close friends and relatives. But away from that, you suffered 2 severe injuries, tearing both your ACLs while out in the US. Just how difficult was that to overcome?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't easy at all. Thankfully, my mum flew out for both my surgeries, so I had sort of a familiar face there waking up. But yeah, it was tough. I think my first one was the most savage one. I ended up being sort of like on crutches for like at least a month, I think, and I was in like a straight leg brace for ages. Like I don't know if something went wrong with the surgery or something, like my body just didn't respond well to it at all, and it was just, that one was really tough initially, but then I think once I got like over that, it was the sort of support I had from the school I was at was really good. So I got back. I think for both of them, it took me about 12 months. I think usually, like with ACLs, usually hear people saying, it'll be like 6 to 9 months recovery. So you're like, 6 months, that's not too bad. But yeah, mine ended up being like 12 months. So it was pretty savage. But I think it's like, it sounds weird, but it's like the sort of like best and worst thing that I think happened to me while I was out there. Because like with my first one, definitely it I would say it focused me. First one, like I think my sort of mindset in my first year was like, I don't know if I'd become sort of distracted from like playing football seriously, and I was like, at least I'm having a good time out here in America, and it doesn't matter if I don't necessarily make it. I've still managed to have this experience, and that's an achievement in itself. And then I think when I tore my ACL, because it was such a nightmare, and it was tough coming back from it. It was like painful. It's like mentally tough, physically tough. It's like really testing. So I think to spend 12 months having to recover, like having to sort of learn how to walk again, learn how to run again, like just sort of like basic, simple things, when it's like time to actually, because you have to fight to get back to playing. When you get back to playing, it's like, I'm going to take it so much more seriously now than I ever have before, because it's like you just sort of take it, you appreciate it so much more than you did before.
I know it sounds daft, but it could be a positive as well. Obviously, if you play through your career and without ever having a serious injury or injury of any sort, you're always living in fear, aren't you? I mean, a lot of players that I've spoken to have had injury setbacks and injuries like you've spoken about, and maybe it's
Yeah.
good to get out of the way, sort of thing. I don't know if that's the right thing to say, but that's
No, absolutely.
you do live in fear of getting injured if you've never had a serious injury previously.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I know some players that'll be like, oh, like, won't go 100% for something because they don't want to get injured, but it's just like, you can't play like that. No, I can remember when I was coming back, and they're like, I think, well, coming back from my first one, they say I'm not sure what the percentage chance is, but they're always like, oh, there's a certain percent chance that you're more likely to tear your other ACL. And you're just like, why are you telling me that? Or it's just like, that's fine, but it's not going to stop me from playing. Like, I've done everything I can to get back fit. So if it happens again, it happens again. I've recovered from it once, so I can recover from it again, kind of thing. And I think because it was, my first one was my first year, my second one was my last year, because I had like such a gap between the two of them. I think I sort of thought I was like in the clear, and then it happened again, and it was like, oh, not again. Like, it's just a case, I think. And then because it was like my last year, like loads of people were like, oh, in America anyway, they were like, are you going to keep playing? Like, what are you going to do? And I was like, of course I'm going to keep playing. Like, why would I stop? I was like, I recovered from it once, I can recover from it again. And I was like, you don't want to know me if I'm not playing football. Like, I don't think I'd be a pleasant person.
But that's just your style. I mean, you are quite a tenacious player. You love a tackle. You love to get stuck in. And you can't go into games living in fear, thinking, oh, I might break my leg. That's just, you can't, that cannot enter your mind whatsoever.
Not at all. It's just one of them things. Like, the chances of it happening are slim. And if it happens, there's not much you can do about it. Like, you can prepare yourself as much as you want to prepare yourself to sort of stop yourself getting injured, which is obviously the aim. But if there's a freak accident and you get injured, then you've got to get on board with it and just crack on.
So in 2018, after graduating from university, you joined Lewes in the 2018-19 season. Just how was that experience after obviously being away from your friends and family, as I spoke about there in the UK for so long? I can imagine it may have took a while to settle back in, obviously the jet lag and all the time difference and seeing your friends and family again. Did it take a while to settle in?
Yeah, a little bit. I think, like, thinking back on it, I think it took me like when I was in America, I think it took me the 5 years I was there to really feel settled there. So by the time I was settled, I was like then leaving again. And it was like, oh, I've now got to get settled back into England. So I think sort of initially it was tough, just because I had some really good friends in America. And then obviously came back, wasn't like home for long before I then moved down to Lewes. So yeah, I think it was tough, but I think like the group of girls that were at Lewes at the time were a really good bunch, so they obviously helped it settle back in. And I think it was just sort of nice being back in England for, like, obviously I'm still quite a distance from like my family, but if we'd had the weekend off, then I was able to, I'd just like bomb up on a Friday, stay a Saturday, Sunday, and then leave on a Monday or something like that. And then my brother sort of lives in Milton Keynes area, so like he's not too far away. Or my mum could come down and my dad could come down. So it was like, I think I'm obviously a distance away from them, but in the grand scheme of things, like, I'm not in a different country, not miles away. So I think we can handle this a lot better than we could America.
So towards the end of that particular season, you joined Millwall, another Southern-based club. Just how would you assess your time at Millwall? A great group of girls, I'm led to believe. Yeah.
I think when I joined Millwall, it was like a very, very young group of girls. I think I was 23 or 24 at the time, and I was like the second oldest person on the team.
Wow.
But weird. But I think sort of for me at that time, it was a like really good move. Obviously, it started been at Lewes, and initially that had been good for me because at the start of my time at Lewes, I was still sort of recovering from my second ACL. So obviously, I had the belief and support from John Donoghue and the S&C staff to sort of get me back. But then things went a bit tits up there, and the manager changed, and then things went a bit sour. Again, face didn't fit and whatnot. So So I left there, as you said, went to Millwall. And yeah, I think it was a good move for me. Like Chris Phillips, who was there at the time, had belief in me. Like ended up having like a good amount of game time for the games that were left. I think that season for Millwall was a bit of a rough one. Obviously, I think because they'd had such a big like player turnover and it was a lot of young girls, they'd started off quite rough. But I think they were sort of starting to find a bit of form in the league within themselves. So I think I joined at a good time and I was able to sort of help them finish on a strong note. But yeah, it was good for me, that.
After signing for London Bees in the summer of 2019, would you say that this is the most settled you've been in your career so far, Georgia? Obviously, a great club, a great group of girls under a fantastic boss in Lee Birch.
Yeah, I would say, Lee's a great manager. I would say sorry, I can't get my words out. I'll start again with that. I would say this is the most sort of settled I've felt in quite a while, especially since returning to England. As you said, Lee's a great manager. He's had a lot of belief in me pretty much since day one at the club. I went into sort of the pre-season last year, like 2 years ago now, like trialing. I think since he saw me in like a proper game, he's had a lot of belief in me, and I think that's really reflected in sort of my performances. Like when you feel respected and valued by your manager, it's sort of, you play so much better than if you're questioning and wondering where you stand and this, that and the other. So if you've got the backing of your manager and you feel confident within yourself, then you're going to go out and perform so much better. And I think that's part of the reason why I feel like I've performed so well at Bees since I've been there. But
what I've noticed about Lee's management style is he's not just a great manager on the pitch, but off the pitch he's fantastic as well. He's making sure all the girls are okay off the pitch, any problems, and he's there on hand to help you and give you that added confidence if you're feeling down. He's there to pick you up off the pitch, and not a lot of managers can do that.
Yeah, 100%. And I'd say that's probably what makes him so great, that he cares about his players. He's not just there for training. He actually invests in the players as people, and he actually wants to get to know you and wants like everyone to enjoy being there. He isn't just sort of all about football. He's like very much about the people. Like he's big on team bonding and getting us all together and making sure everyone's happy and everyone's having a good time. And I think that's part of the reason why he's been so successful with some of the clubs he's been at.
Now, we've covered your pathway through football there over the years. Just how pleased are you with your development and progression down the years? A great reader of the game being one of your best traits, and you love a tackle.
Yeah. I would say they're probably the biggest parts of my game, sort of reading the game and tackling. I can remember when I was in America, one of the lads that was on the men's team, he made a joke of like, you only touch the ball when you're tackling. I was like, yeah, you're probably right. But yeah, I think over the years I've been happy with my sort of progression. Just sort of refused to stop playing, I think that's why I've managed to get to where I'm at. Obviously was happy sort of with my youth career. When I was like young, sort of progressed through to Leeds and then into America. I was happy with how I did out there, obviously coming back from my ACLs, and then was happy with playing with the semi-pro teams that I played with, and then returning. I think, yeah, like as you said, like obviously the areas of my game that I think have always been strong are sort of reading the game and tackling. So I think going to America, I was able to work on areas of my games that wasn't as strong when I was in England, such as like the physical side of things and getting fit and really taking that to another level. So yeah, I think, and then obviously coming back from America into the Championship, that's a whole different ball game again. So that's pushed me to just sort of grow as a different player and keep pushing myself to be as good as I can be.
I mentioned there, as well as reading the game well, you love a tackle or free, but Georgia, you also love a goal, don't you? Just talk us through this absolute worldie you scored at London City Lionesses. Just what was going through your head and your reaction when the ball hit the net from such a long distance?
Yeah, I think when we got the free kick, I think my first thought was, oh, it's not actually that far out. And then I think second thought was, it's going to be awkward to try and like clip it into someone to play onto. So then I think I turned around to one of my teammates and I was like, should I go for it? And she was like, yeah, go on then. I was like, oh. And I did it once before when I was in America, like hit it from distance and just like lobbed the keeper. And like I fancied it and I like looked at the keeper and she was like slightly off the line and didn't look at all interested. So I was like, yeah, I'm good with this. And I think, yeah, when it went in, I think I dropped a lot of F-bombs. I was just like very, very excited.
So obviously we mentioned this weekend's match with Sheffield United. You must be really relishing the second half of the season. A great solid group with a degree of excitement to end the season on a positive note. As you said, a couple of wins there, a couple of goals can breed confidence and you could well propel up the table into maybe the top 5 or 6. Yeah,
100%. It's almost like you can almost look at it as like a completely new season, the second half of the season. I think obviously with the new faces we've got in, I think it will bode well for us and help us really kick on to finish the season strong. As I said, we finished the back half we finished before Christmas pretty strong. So I think we've been working hard in training. We'll look to sort of crack on with our performances and really try and sort of capitalise on what we've got so far and really, really try and get some more results.
So I must ask, Georgia, have you always set out to be a defender? Obviously, you grew up a Newcastle United supporter. Did you have any idols growing up? People you looked up to?
I don't think I always intended to be a defender. I think it just sort of happened. I ended up supporting Newcastle because my brother did, and he supported them because of Alan Shearer. So right. He loved Alan Shearer, so I loved Alan Shearer. And I think on the like women's side of things, everybody growing up, like I think most girls growing up loved Kelly Smith. Like she was like the player of that time. I think when I played at school, just played everywhere. And then I think when I first started playing with the boys, I want to say I was in midfield, but I don't think any of the boys would pass me the balls. And I got pushed, I got put in defence. And then I think when I played with the girls again would be sort of midfield, just sort of like running everywhere. And then I think when I went to North Yorkshire, I think midfield for a very short spell and then got put in defence. Then I was a goalkeeper for a little bit. And then I think when I went to America, they tried to put me in midfield again. I even played up top a little bit. I've been moved around. I think I've played everywhere up and down the spine, but I've not really been a winger. So yeah, I've tried everywhere, but I think defender's the one for me.
I suppose most players find their position just by trying different positions out and seeing what's best suited to them and how comfortable they feel with that particular position. Obviously, we talked through your journey there, moving to the US for a number of years and now living down south. I imagine your parents have been extremely supportive. You mentioned your mum and your dad and your brother. They've been great throughout your journey. It must have been hard at times, though, for you, away from your friends and family, moving to America especially. Just how influential have they been on your career?
Yeah, I mean, they've been massive. Like, for football from pretty much the start, I've always had to travel to get to training. And obviously, my mum's, I can't even begin to tell you how many hours my mum's put in taking me to and from football. And then I think when I was like going to America, my dad, and we had like a fitness program to do. My dad was like down at the pitch, like doing it with me, making sure I was doing it. So yeah, like there's like not a chance I'd be where I am without like mum and dad and like brother just sort of pushing me and supporting me and allowing me to have like all the opportunities that I've had. So yeah, absolutely. Best bunch ever.
So Georgia, it's been fantastic having you on the show this week, and we'll be sure to catch up again very soon. And all the best for this weekend's massive game.
Brilliant. Yeah, cheers, Tom. Thanks for having us.
So thanks for tuning into this week's show, guys. Now, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Please don't forget we are on Twitter and Instagram, so please get in touch or send in any comments you may have on the podcast, and we'll see you next time. Thanks once again to Georgia for tonight's very great episode. It was great speaking to you, Georgia.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Tom. It's been good to be on here.